Hello, I'm Sean Kantayashi with Saucon Valley Cute and Cuddly Schnauzers and occasionally a surprise schnoodle. This is one of my beloved little schnauzers. This is Mocha, and he happens to be groomed in the traditional schnauzer cut, so you can see his cute little schnauzerness. And I will show you that this little fella is a puppy who has parents that are both and grandparents that are miniature schnauzers. He has siblings from the same litter that are miniature schnauzers, but he came back from his DNA test as a schnoodle. But we love you. We're so happy that you're here. And that's my way of introducing myself, to say I am a dog breeder among many other things in my life. That's one facet of my life. Today, I am so excited to have an expert here with me, a guest. She and I met at the Big Hearted Breeders Conference. In fact, we were both speakers on the platform at the Big Hearted Breeders Conference. And when I heard Michelle Stern speaking, when I heard about her background, she owns a company called Pooch Parenting. Michelle is not only a professional dog trainer and behavior consultant for dogs, she also is a mom. She was a teacher for 16 years, and she does a great job of providing assistance to families that want to make sure that they can integrate their existing children, family members, in with their new puppy and vice versa. So if you have a dog and a beloved family pet, and now you're having a baby and you want to make sure you're teeing everything up for success, Michelle is your go-to person. So Michelle, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sean. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thrilled that you're here. Hey, you know how you can tell when you're working with, interacting with somebody who has a lot of expertise? You ask them a question and they don't know you're going to ask them that question. There's no script. There's no script here in what we're doing today, other than I wrote down some questions that I wanted to ask Michelle in our conversation today. But Michelle didn't submit questions that I'm then going to answer, or she's going to answer, or something like that. So watch this, because I'm going to be giving her questions she doesn't know are coming. And you'll just see what it looks like when you're talking to an expert.
Okay,
So,
I'm
here we
ready.
go.
Here we go.
When a puppy goes to a home with young children, what do parents need to do to be prepared before that puppy arrives at their house?
Oh, good question. So I love when people are prepared ahead of time. It makes a world of difference, because when you get your puppy home, the last thing you need to do is be scrambling about who to put where and where the kids should go and where the puppy should go and where should the puppy even nap. And so I am a huge proponent of using management in the home. I use it even in my own home, and my kids are grown, but I have two dogs as well. I love using pens in homes because pens are great for puppies. They're also great for kids. So you can switch who uses the pen, right? So you could use a pen for a toddler with their toys in there, or you can use a pen to contain a puppy where it can have a safe zone of the house. If the kids are running around wild and the puppy needs to kind of take a break and watch what's going on and learn how this new household runs, it's a really safe spot for them to see what's going on in their new home. And you can fill it with all kinds of really great things. This is not a punishment place. I need to be really clear about this. A pen is like a condo or an apartment where we've got, a bed and we have water and we have toys and whatever else. But it's a nice, safe space that a puppy knows they always can be left alone if necessary. And then, of course, with parent permission, we can have interactions with the puppy, but not without. So I like to make sure they have safe zones set up before the puppy even gets there.
Oh, I love your answer. I'm such a big believer that puppies need structure and boundaries first. Then they need training and discipline. And then they need love and affection. And so often I watch people give a whole bunch of love and affection with no structure and boundaries. So I love that you and I are both big believers in having a playpen for a puppy. And you've just added the importance of having the playpen for the child. So now let me ask this one. If we've got that playpen set up, what are some games or maybe thinking puzzles that you suggest we include in the playpen?
So I'm going to say it depends on the age of the puppy, and it probably depends a little bit on how long the puppy has been with you, because I don't want to overwhelm them the second they get home, because they need to figure out this whole new life without their litter mates and their parent dogs and you, their breeder. It can be pretty overwhelming being separated. So one thing that I love, and not all breeders do this, but I love when a breeder sends home a heartbeat puppy with the dog, because it can smell like the litter mates. It has a little heartbeat inside, and it provides a little comfort and reminder of where they came from. Sometimes I provide items that they can chew on of different textures, because puppies are growing teeth like crazy, and they're under the gums, and the puppy teeth are sharp little needles, and we've got new teeth coming. And so I like to provide different textures, some things that are softer, some things that are firmer. I sometimes defer to what a veterinarian says and what the breeder says based on the firmness, because we don't want to break any puppy teeth. Sometimes I like to use things like a snuffle mat, which is a really fun textured mat that you can make them on your own by cutting up pieces of fleece. And anyway, dogs love to use their noses to find food, and so sometimes we can sprinkle some goodies in there, and the dog has to use their nose to find them among the little fibers of the snuffle mat. It's a really soothing activity as well. I think that dogs, when they get the opportunity to sniff a lot, it helps to settle them down, and I think it's comforting. I love using licky mats. Also, that's very soothing as well. So you could spread soft food. You can use, if you're a raw food feeder, you can put raw food on there, or canned food, or whatever you think is appropriate. There's all sorts of things. There are also food puzzles, but I think sometimes when we overwhelm our puppies, the very first thing, it's too much. But I just like to have a variety of things to see what they like, because they're new to you and you don't know what they're going to like just yet.
I send my puppies home with several toys, a hard chew toy like a cow hoof, and often something that smells like the litter that they've been a part of. And
That's
I
good.
know, yeah, I know toys can be really challenging because puppies and young children
Uh-huh.
might like the same toys. And that leads me to another question for you. What are some of the common mistakes that people make in the first introduction, in that first few days of bringing a new puppy into a home with young children?
Oh, there's so many. I want to address the toy question first, though, because you led me right into it. So I have to do it. Um, a lot of times parents make the assumption that the dog will be able to distinguish the difference between kids' toys and child's toys, and that children can make the distinction between them as well. And they can't necessarily, because honestly, if you go to any pet supply store, the stuff looks the same. I mean, frankly, the stuffed animals and all of that stuff looks the same across species. And so I generally try to recommend either, storing items in separate zones and separate places. Sometimes with kids, we keep kids' toys in the kids' room or in special bins that the dog can't open or get into. That way we can alleviate some of that confusion. But I think in terms of introducing a puppy into a home when you've got kids, one of the biggest mistakes that parents make is just sort of bringing the puppy home and letting them go and giving them freedom and assuming that everybody's going to just get along beautifully, and that we don't need to set boundaries or have any structure with who gets to handle the puppy when and under what circumstances. And puppies, as you know, and hopefully your listeners and viewers know, need so much sleep. The problem is when you have puppies as cute as your puppies are, it is hard to resist them. I am a puppy fanatic. I am a serial puppy foster for local organizations. And so I understand like the true draw of a puppy. I am that person. I'm a sucker. But it is hard sometimes to restrain myself. And I'm an adult with impulse control. It is sometimes very hard to restrain yourself from wanting to scoop them up and snuggle them and handle them and hold them and carry them. Children are not coordinated enough to carry a puppy around the house unless they're maybe just sitting on the floor and an adult places the puppy into the child's lap, or maybe the puppy says, yes, please, and crawls into the child's lap, but not for carrying the puppy around the house. They're just too vulnerable, in my opinion, when they're really small to risk them falling or hurting themselves. Or another issue too for me is consent. And a puppy should be able to say, you know what, I need a break, or I'm not interested in socializing right now. And when a parent just sort of hopes for the best and says, I want them to be best friends so they have unlimited access to each other, what can happen is an overtired puppy bites more, and that damages a relationship with a child. An overtired child is less patient and calm, and that can frighten a puppy, which damages a potential relationship. So I think we need very clear boundaries about who handles puppy, when they handle puppy, what the context is, that we never go in a puppy's crate, we never go in the puppy's pen without permission. An eating puppy gets left alone. A sleeping puppy gets left alone. We don't bring our puppy to the birthday party right away. And, you know, there are things that we need to do slowly to let the puppy become adjusted into this new life.
Oh, what great advice.
I just threw up all over you, didn't I?
No, I love it. I love
Sorry.
it. And you and I are singing from the same, what's that? Singing from the same hymnal here about the importance of these things and making sure that we are honoring the structure, the boundaries, the training, the discipline, and then the love and affection for both our children and our puppies. Yeah, I have a rule that everybody, any young child, and often adults too, we talk about it at the front door. And by the way, I don't have any puppies or dogs at the front door unless I happen to be holding one myself. And we talk about bottoms on the floor while we're playing with puppies. Mm-hmm. So imagine for a moment people come to my house for puppy play dates or to meet their puppy and the siblings, mm-hmm. that kind of thing. And they all have to agree that they're willing to keep their bottom on the floor while the puppies are out.
And it's so easy to step on them or trip on them, or, oh gosh, you can't even imagine, you know, the vulnerability is just too much.
And this is why it goes back to that playpen, right? But here, next question for you. What advice do you have about how to choose a dog breeder when you want to add a puppy to your family? So some people might be watching this video and meeting both of us for the first time, because the video is really all about how to integrate a dog into your family in the best possible way when you have young children. And so some people may be looking for different types of breeds and such. How do you advise someone? Because I think people come to you even before they buy a dog to figure out what breed might be right for their family, given the dynamics of the children. Is that right?
It is. And I wish it was more so. I wish that more people came to me before they got their dog instead of after an unpleasant interaction between their dogs and kids. So unfortunately, many people come to me after there's been a bite or after there's been a problem. And I feel that if we worked together prior to that, then it's possible we could have avoided that in the first place. I can speak to this breeder question a lot because I had to go through the same search process for my own dogs. I have border terriers, and for the first time in my life, I worked with a breeder. And I have to say, I used a different breeder for both of my dogs. And there's a reason for that I did not return to the first breeder that I used. So what I would say, first of all, before we even get to the point of choosing which breeder we need to really be clear on the breed or the type of dog you want in the first place. If you're a family with young kids, or if you're a young couple who is expecting kids down the road, you need a dog that is pretty resilient, that is very confident, and that suits the lifestyle that you as a family live. Now, I'm going to make a really important distinction here. You do not get the puppy for the lifestyle you want to have eventually. You get the puppy for the lifestyle you have now. So, for example, if you want to become a marathon runner, you don't get a dog that can run and run and run without ever getting tired right now, because you still haven't gotten off the couch. You want a dog that could maybe learn with you. And I have news for you. Most dogs can keep up for a short run. And if really all you're going to do is a 2-mile run, most dogs can do that. Maybe not the really short-legged dogs, but a lot of dogs can do this. It's not that hard. So you don't need a Dalmatian, which used to run along fire trucks and with horses forever. You don't need that if you aren't a runner yet, you know? So I recommend people not looking towards their aspirational life, but their current life. Let's be honest. Are you a hiker or do you prefer game night? And let's get a dog that's going to be happy in that lifestyle, because the wrong fit is significant and it becomes a problem down the line. Then when you determine what breed or breed mix or whatever it is that you want to get, then we need to begin the process of searching for a breeder. And in my opinion, breeders should provide you with as much documentation and proof as you request to demonstrate that they do a couple of things. Number one, that their dogs are healthy. And I mean healthy physiologically in their body, orthopedics, heart, eyes, patellas, you know, all of those things, whatever is recommended for that particular breed. Some breeds have more eye problems. Some breeds have heart problems. Some breeds have hip dysplasia. So you need evidence that a breeder is doing all of the testing and is only breeding dogs that are healthy in that regard. And I also want to see people breeding dogs that are emotionally stable and happy dogs, nice dogs, friendly dogs, dogs that aren't reactive to other dogs, dogs that don't bite people, dogs that love families, loves to be social. Now, there are breed differences, certainly, right? I just actually had an interview with another breeder who she breeds German short-haired pointers. And she was hilarious because she was talking to me about how her dogs love everybody, right? And so there are just certain breeds. There are some breeds that are more reserved. Some breeds naturally chase children, like herding breeds. So a toddler alongside a border collie, I'm going to just tell you straight up, is a very hard combination, because when the toddler moves, the dog is bred to try to control that movement. And so if that's challenging for you from a bandwidth perspective, then we need to shift a little bit into thinking what would work better. But I like to see breeders that are using really rigorous puppy protocols, you know, such as puppy culture or Avidog or things of that nature, where they're exposing puppies to early socialization opportunities, smells and textures and noises and sounds and all of the things, so that they can be robust and resilient when they grow up. That's just a start. That's kind of where I begin the process.
I love everything you've said. I don't know that you know this about me, but when I was a teenager, I was active in dog showing and junior showmanship, and eventually evolved that into owning my very first business, which was called Perfect Pet Pickers. And the idea was that I helped families figure out what dog breed
that's
was
awesome.
the right one for them.
So needed.
It was a lot of fun because I had the dog show connections and knew really good breeders that I could introduce to families based on what we learned. But part of the reason why I chose the breed that I now have is because I wanted hypoallergenic. I wanted great with families, easy to train, cuddly, friendly, all of those kinds of things.
Plus cute. Let's be real.
Cute helps too. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I love all of that. I think it's also important.
Well, let's take the other side of this, which I know you have deep expertise in, and that is, how do we get our beloved dog So maybe we've been in a family with a wonderful dog, and now we're having a baby. Congratulations, the
Yeah.
baby's on the way. How do we get that beloved dog to be ready for the new
Oh my
baby?
gosh. Well, that is something I literally have programs that last 6 whole weeks about that. I have one of my programs is called Pause to Pacifiers because it is a very common situation where your dog was your first baby. You learn how to love and nurture and take care of another creature with a dog, and then maybe you are going to have children, or maybe you're even a foster family for children, and so you have kids coming through your home, and a lot of dogs are not really prepared for how the routine changes when a baby is going to join them. So the regular routine, the predictability of life as they knew it shifts. There are new pieces of equipment all over the house. There's less attention than there used to be. There might be a different exercise routine than there used to be. You might not get fed at the same time, and many other things like that. Plus, new parents often go through a lot of guilt because they are no longer the same dog parent that they were before, and they feel really bad about that. And so there's a lot that you can do in advance to help prepare a dog for this transition, including subtle shifts in scheduling so the dog can become more flexible without sitting there staring at you at 5:01 p.m. because dinner is a minute late. And another thing too, and this goes back to our puppy stuff with the pens, is getting your dog comfortable behind a barrier. Because when you have a newborn, you cannot possibly watch all the time your dog and your newborn. And so having a place where the dog can be safe behind a barrier so that your baby can have tummy time without worrying that the dog is going to get up in the baby's business or anything else is really important. And for many dogs who have not ever been behind a barrier in the past, this can be a very difficult ask of them. And so that is one of the first things that I train with that.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah,
And I know you have several different programs. I want to hear about those in just a few minutes. But
sure.
I've heard you share a little bit about some of those highlights that brought you to this current career path. You and I both had similar experiences as young people getting deeply involved with dogs. Would you
Mm-hmm.
tell us some of the spots along the way in your
Yeah.
career path that brought
Yeah.
you to this,
It's
Michelle?
interesting. There's a few really key ones. So I was one of those kids that was always going to be a vet. That was going to be my thing. I worked as a bather at a dog grooming shop, and I worked for veterinarians, and I worked in an animal shelter. I was addicted to dogs. And um, somewhere along the way, inorganic chemistry, in fact, that weeded me out. And I ended up teaching high school biology, and I had two children of my own. I also founded a cooking school for children as young as 2 years old. Um, Fun fact, kids and knives are a lot like kids and puppies, right? I tend to be attracted to things that most people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Ask most dog trainers if they want to support families with young kids and puppies, and they run screaming the other direction because a lot of dog professionals don't really love children that much. That's why they work with dogs. And so that's why I'm kind of a natural, appropriate choice, because as a mom, former teacher, and now certified professional dog trainer and behavior consultant, it's a perfect blend of all of my life experiences, all kind of wrapped up into one. And I felt that it would be a good use of my expertise as an educator to be able to support other dog professionals to work with more clients, and also to help overwhelmed parents, because I was an overwhelmed parent, and I can make their lives a lot easier and safer. And also, frankly, from a breeder perspective and a rescue perspective, I don't want your dogs to be returned to you. I want your clients to be happy enough so that they keep their dogs for the lifespan of the dog, and everyone loves where they got their dog because they were supported enough. And then they recommend you to other folks. And so I want to be part of your toolkit, of your resources that you recommend to folks to set them up for success basically down the line, because it is hard. Kids are very unpredictable, and with the right support, there are ways to help manage it if the dog is suited for that actual home. Some dogs aren't. Some dogs just are too sensitive to live in a chaotic environment with lots of kids. But a lot of dogs they love it. They love it so much. So,
yep. Would you introduce us to who that is in your lap
oh
right
my
now?
gosh. Yes, this is Pippin. Pippin
Hi,
is
Pippin.
he is wet and he is tired. Right before this walk, I took him to the river. I live in Central Oregon, and we have a river right over near us. And so he is wet in my lap, and he is a tired boy, so he's a little fussy. And that's why I picked him up, because I didn't want him to interrupt us too much.
That's
But I
quite
do therapy. I do therapy work with Pippin at our local hospital.
cool.
And we spend a lot of time in the emergency department and in the labor and delivery department. He has helped a lot of people to, most people don't want to be in the hospital. So he's helped a lot of folks and a lot of nurses to have a better day.
Yes, I love that. You and I have that in common too. I love to use my therapy dogs just to be generous of spirit. I think of it as spreading love and joy in the world. And when I have free time and the ability to do so, why not? Right? Yeah. So, what do you feed little Mr. Cute and Cuddly
Pippin.
there?
Well, Pippin and his little sister, Olive, who's a teenage hormonal menace at the moment, I feed them a variety of food. I'm a firm believer that dogs shouldn't just eat one thing, because, variety is the spice of life. I have experimented a lot with food. I am currently feeding breakfast of a raw food. And it is in the freezer, and it actually is pre-cut into little cubes, and it has lots of vegetables and things in it. And I rotate between some different proteins: beef, lamb, duck, and pork. Olive is allergic to chicken, so we don't do chicken. And then throughout the day, they get other things, sometimes vegetables and things like that. And then in the evening, their dinner is oftentimes kibble that I put in puzzles that they can roll around the house and little pieces fall out. And the kibble that I use for them is called open farm kibble. The reason I like it is because I'm an environmentalist and I care about animal welfare, and open farm kibble you can source exactly the farm where the animals were ethically raised and dispatched. So I chose to use a really high quality food for them for
That's
that.
great. Maybe you would share a link with me to
I'd
that,
be
and I'll
happy to.
include it in the show notes
You
below
bet.
so
You
that
bet.
people can check out the foods that you recommend
Sure.
based on your experience with Pippin and your other dogs. Yeah. I really want to make sure that anybody who's here watching along who's saying, wow, I want to talk to Michelle. I want to work with Michelle. How can I find Michelle? If people want to follow up with you, what's the best way for them to learn more about you and your services, Michelle?
So my website is called Pooch Parenting, and it's poochparenting.net. I
Let's
also have,
spell that. Let's
oh,
spell that.
okay. So Pooch, POOCH, poochparenting.net, NET.
Part of the reason why I asked that is I have viewers from literally all over the world.
Good. I'm so glad.
And so sometimes we just need to make sure we know how
No,
to
I love it. I think
spell them.
that's great. I also have a podcast called the Pooch Parenting Podcast, which I am neglecting, so I apologize. And then I have a small little limited series podcast called Parenting Kids and Dogs 101. And that is just 15 episodes that are each like 10 minutes long. And that covers some of the highlights of like, why do people call me and what can I do for folks? But for people who are getting a dog or who are thinking about getting a dog, I have two resources in particular that I think are really interesting. So I have an online class called Kids and Dogs 101. And if a breeder recommends people take that, then I can give the breeder a thank you, but also that breeder can give a discount code to their clients, which is wonderful. It's a great overview, and it shows things like the pen that I like to use, and it talks about body language they should recognize, helps them to have appropriate expectations for what life will be like when they're raising kids and dogs together. And then I also have a membership for parents raising kids and dogs together, and that's called the Pooch Parenting Society. And it's basically just a safe place for parents to ask questions whenever they come up. A lot of times parents don't want to have a whole appointment with a trainer because they just want to know how to handle bath time or the bedtime routine with the kids. It feels really stressful. So we have 2 Zooms a month, and I have a private Facebook group, and I share games and resources that kids and dogs can play together safely. So those are a few of the things that I offer to people.
What a great idea. We have built a really wonderful community here on YouTube, and you'll regularly see in the comments below tips and ideas and so forth. And I would love it. Those of you who are regulars here, would you please write in the comments below an affirmation to Michelle? What did you learn from Michelle today? What did you hear today from her that added something to your toolkit? Let's send her some love through the comments below.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your wisdom, your expertise, your life experience, your passion with us at SVCC Schnauzers, and occasionally a surprise schnoodle. Michelle, I hope that you have a great weekend, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.